My name is Diana Napolis. In 1995, I was a court intervention social worker for Child Protection Services in San Diego County with a specialty in the investigation of satanic ritual abuse and decided to investigate satanic cults on the internet, undercover. On September 24th, 2000, my identity was revealed in a San Diego Union Tribune newspaper article written by reporter Mark Sauer, who is a friend of Carol Hopkins, one of my political opponents. It was apparent that the disclosure of my name, in the context of Sauer's false light defamation, was intended solely to intimidate and silence me, so I would not proceed with my investigations. On January 1st, 2001, as a symbolic gesture for the millennium, I responded to the allegations made by my political opponents in this article and published it on the internet in order to send a message to those attempting to stop me from exercising my First Amendment rights to free speech, which had been dedicated to the rights of children. http://tinyurl.com/ksnhos. As background on Carol Hopkins, she instigated the pursuit of my identity in 2000 in retaliation after I exposed her as a fraud in both San Diego and later in Cuernavaca, Mexico. The documentation of these events can be found on this website. Ms. Hopkins was affiliated with the False Memory Syndrome Foundation, FMSF, and was close friends of FMSF founders Peter and Pamela Fried, as well as advisory board member Dr. Elizabeth Loftus. Apparently, Ms. Hopkins suffered humiliation, and rightly so, as a result of this exposure, but because she suffers from pathological arrogance, her need to retaliate was and is extreme. In 2001, I was told that Carol Hopkins, her husband, attorney David Hopkins, and Mark Sauer were in the Illuminati, but that she also had a private inner order. Ms. Hopkins communicated with me after I was targeted in May of 2001 and told me that this order hunted their personal enemies for sport, I assume with some sort of variation of the previously described technology. Given Hopkins's standing in the Illuminati, I wonder if she was ever the handler for Dr. Elizabeth Loftus. I was told in 2001 that there were several reasons why I was targeted by Carol Hopkins, Christopher Barden, Michael Aquino, Lilith Aquino, Scott Laughlin, and Michelle Devereaux. This was ostensibly due to the fact that I was exposing legitimate information about them on the internet. I was also told that Dr. Phil Shaver and his wife, Dr. Gail Goodman, had a motive for harming me after I wrote to Dr. Goodman requesting the underlying data to their research study, Characteristics and Sources of Allegations of Ritualistic Child Abuse. This study was pivotal because Dr. Gail Goodman was known to be an advocate for children, and it was the first scientific study of its kind to allegedly canvass social services, law enforcement, and therapists about the prevalence of ritual crime. My colleagues and I suspected this study was fraudulent, and I was finally able to prove it in 2008. After I finished critiquing this study, I sent it to UC Davis and requested them to review it for academic fraud because it was clear that the researchers' only intent was to cover up the subject of ritualistic child abuse. As background to what occurred after I was identified in the San Diego Union Tribune in September 2000. In January 2001, I had an alien abduction experience. I kinesthetically felt an object come over me that extracted my astral body, after which I was taken aboard a craft. Apparently, teleportation technology was used to transport me. I took the arm of someone who I later referred to as a hybrid. I was shown a pictograph of two diminutive aliens struggling over a weapon and physics equations on a chalkboard. I told them I was not proficient in physics, but if I could assist them with something, I would consider it. I then returned to my body. In retrospect, I wonder if these aliens were showing me that it was possible to extract or kidnap the soul or astral body, and that another faction of aliens were planning on misusing that same technology. Author Whitley Strieber, who published several books describing his contact with aliens whom he believed were benevolent, changed the tone of his books drastically in 2008 and has been depicting aliens as harvesting the souls of human beings. In 2001, I was psychologically and physically victimized by extremely lethal computer brain and body interface technology by reported Satanist Dr. Phil Shaver of UC Davis, Carol Hopkins, a member of the Illuminati, her husband David Hopkins, Michael and Lilith Aquino, satanic cult leaders of the Temple of Set, Robert Menschel, Dr. R. Christopher Barden, attorney for the False Memory Syndrome Foundation, FMSF, Dr. Elizabeth Loftus of UC Irvine, FMSF Advisory Board member, perhaps Henry and Lila Gleitman from the FMSF, Dr. Scott Laughlin, Satanist, physicist, and computer expert at UC Davis/Berkeley Advanced Light Source, Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory, who reportedly worked for a short time at the National Security Agency, NSA. Scott Laughlin also reportedly worked with SETI, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligences, at Berkeley, California. Scott Laughlin's father, Ron Laughlin, Satanist Tanya Lysenko, a.k.a. Tani Jansang, Satanist Dr. John Price, Ph.D. of UC Davis, deceased, Satanist Michelle Devereaux, computer expert Claire and John as pseudonyms, reportedly from Russia, who I believe may have subjected cult leaders Michael and Lilith Aquino to identity theft and later stole their millions, and various institutions such as Massachusetts Institute of Technology and a mind control unit at NASA Ames. Introduction. Part 1 of Ivor. I was first accessed by multiple individuals, including the above, who identified themselves as employees of NASA, Livermore Lab, the University of California school system, the CIA, the Human Genome Project, and later hostile aliens, who, various factions stated, were waging a planetary takeover. The hostile aliens made their appearance in 2001 when I was attacked with what appeared to be artificial intelligence probes or nanobots. I was told that quantum-like computers specifically designed to torture and spiritually kill me in an esoteric black ops project were smuggled into the country via Tanya Lysenko, whose uncle works for the KGB. See Napolis v. Aquino, PG, 96, paragraph 358, which had the capability of accessing the internal dimensions of the physical and etheric body. Apparently, principles of plasma and fifth-dimensional physics were misused by Scott Laughlin. I was later told that these redesigned computers were sold to major institutions such as Carnegie Mellon and Johns Hopkins University. This may be an example of one such computer. Transparent Apple Macintosh SE30. I was also told that Scott Laughlin's father stole DARPA-like technology from a facility he used to work for. Scott told me he was a Nazi, and apparently so was Michael Aquino and several other perpetrators. I was eventually placed in an illegal cybertronics program, which included experiments in robotization, computer-brain interface, artificial intelligence, and virtual reality. I was told by Scott Laughlin, who now has a PhD in physics, or someone assuming his identity, that I was his informal science project. After I was used as a science project without my consent, this same technology was used to take the interior of my body apart in an effort to see if these quantum computers could demanifest natural bodily codes or barriers, including the astral body. On several occasions, Laughlin placed me in a field of some type, which caused my spine and jaw to move back and forth in a fluid motion. There were several attempts to completely destroy my mind. Afterwards, they subliminally programmed my subconscious and superconscious with a word association program so that I would think the opposite of my intention. For instance, when I intended to think a word like go, it would come out as stop. Because I had meditated for years and knew myself very well, I was able to identify what was done and eventually remedy it. There were also those who I never identified who chose to heal me. I had a deep cut on my finger at one time, and within seconds, the wound closed. Span. I was told that John Price's father and Scott Laughlin's father either worked at DARPA or at Livermore Laboratory and stole technology from these facilities in order to victimize me. Laughlin reportedly attempted to hack into the NSA computer system in order to target me, but had to go out of the countries for satellite communication. There is mention of genetic experiments or accounts of hybrid experiments in Mr. Stryber's books in which the ovum and/or sperm of a human is taken, and a baby or hybrid will then result. In 2001, I had several encounters with those who claimed to be hybrids who were dedicated to my safety. There are other types of hybrids who are not so kind. I was told that the takeover of the planet had been occurring for a long time and was done from within, meaning hybrids or aliens hid themselves inside within various parties. That's one reason why nobody could see it coming. Interestingly, there is a bill now in Congress, HB 1435, the Human-Animal Hybrid Prohibition Act of 2009, which is attempting to prohibit human-animal hybrid research. 1. Advances in research and technology have made possible the creation of human-animal hybrids. 2. Human-animal hybrids are grossly unethical because they blur the line between human and animal, male and female, parent and child, and one individual and another individual. 3. Human dignity and the integrity of the human species are compromised by human-animal hybrids. 4. The uniqueness of individual human beings is manifested in a particular way through their brain and their reproductive organs, cells. 5. With an increase in emerging zoonotic infection threatening the global public health, human-animal hybrids present a particularly optimal means of genetic transfers that could increase the efficiency or virulence of diseases threatening both human and animals. The aliens know how to extract the astral body. Afterwards, it is then possible to either cohabit or reside within a human being. I have interacted with hybrids of various types who befriended me or tried to harm me. Some are in the mind uploading program I see into. Almost unilaterally, I have found there is an inbuilt cruelty to these experiments because these personalities do not know where they belong and are sometimes confused and angry. As a side note, there are also fictional accounts of teleportation experiments which result in atomic DNA being exchanged, which can result in animal, human, and/or alien creatures. My dreams were monitored for the next few months after my alien abduction. One night I experienced what felt like artificial intelligence probes, or nanobots, enter my mind, travel down to the organs of my body, and begin tapping. This was the prelude to their super-secret cybertronic program. One voice told me there was going to be a change of guard, and he instructed me to buy a particular cell phone. For the next year, I was led on an amazing and horrifying journey, during which time various factions staged a war against aliens, and aliens staged a war against each other, while other factions were intent on taking me apart with quantum computer technology. Apparently, we lost the war. I was told 8 years ago by friendly others that a group of these aliens had teleportation technology, which they were frightened of. See http://tiny.cc/Q3VP8 for information about a teleportation physics study that was released a few years ago. As previously stated, it appears that the technology used to kidnap my astral body in 2001 was teleportation technology. I was also told that aliens pretending to be gods, masters of the universe, who Dr. Phil Shaver was pretending to be at times, were collecting human beings and placing them in computer systems for a planetary takeover in 2001, the millennium. The problem with this scenario is that, as documented in Part 1, I discovered information about the Cognome Project, a project which appears to have been set up by human beings in efforts to upload a human mind into a virtual reality environment. I have several different theories about what might have occurred, which I believe deserves investigation. 1. Either aliens were working with human beings in a joint project years ago, mind uploading, or humans were working alone. As far as I've been able to trace it, it appears that the organization, the Singularity, is working in concert with an alien Antichrist agenda. Their writings are a marked example of how an Antichrist agenda can be sold to a gullible or mind-controlled public with little awareness of what is actually occurring. The key concept is that their philosophy is named after a black hole in space. They intend to elevate a supercomputer to replace God and computerize or enhance humans via nanobots and brain implants, which would give rise to the post-humans and the complete annihilation of humankind. http://tinyurl.com/m6r7ja2. Aliens take it one step further and teleport astral bodies after a person's death or while they are alive, and place the mind astral body of a human being into a computer system. 3. One faction of aliens were victimized by a man-made artificial intelligence Satanic Luciferian program or orbiting satellite, perhaps in conjunction with another group of aliens and/or humans, and were afterwards set up by humans to take the fall. 4. Or a powerful group of very satanic aliens took over the technology of those alien humans who were planning to take over the world for the millennium, such as the Illuminati, and staged their own takeout of those above and the entire planet using teleportation technology. I've been told that they learned about the technology used in various Black Ops programs and on me, and proceeded to use that technology on human beings and each other en masse. Throughout June of 2001 to 2002, I went outside every day to observe unusual phenomena, but I did not know what was real and what was a product of virtual reality. It appeared that we were witnessing Armageddon, and that the dark side aliens worshipped a dragon. I actually saw it, and I fought it. I also saw Ulysses/godlike figures and a multitude of cherubs leave in a mass exodus across the sky. Was this a staged event or a product of virtual reality? I don't know. All I can tell you is that my perpetrators were frightened. In the book of Revelations, prophesizing the Armageddon, there is a passage about a dragon and a woman clothed with the sun. This appears to have come to pass. I see colored rainbow prisms in my hair. http://tinyurl.com/ns2pmu. I also saw gold-colored UFO appearing flying craft in the skies of San Diego on a routine basis. One night, one of these crafts came directly at my car while I was on the freeway and then suddenly disappeared, so it is clear that the aliens or humans piloting these craft have a capacity to materialize and dematerialize at will. I was told that after we lost the war, the aliens put everyone on immediate mind control by placing some type of computer card in their brain. In 2002, shortly after all of this occurred, my perpetrators pretended that various Hollywood figures were involved in apparent attempts to discredit me. They all then began abusing me. I purposely wrote a threat to one of these alleged participants, Jennifer Hewitt. This is Miss Hewitt. http://context.org/sockimages/files/blogger2wp/original.jpg. My perpetrators and Hewitt eventually said they were going to irrevocably injure me in October 2002, so I purposely wrote a pseudo-threat to her and had myself placed in the custody of law enforcement for my own protection. I spent a year in jail and was monitored by probation for 5 years. Because my perpetrators caused me endless trouble while I was on probation, I requested and was granted an early release in mid-2008. On May 11, 2009, representatives from the FBI and District Attorney's Office visited my home and warned me that Jim Mix, Jennifer Love Hewitt's webmaster, had made a threat against me. I am somewhat confused as to why Jennifer Hewitt's people would be involved, since until 3 days ago I did not mention her on this web page. I hope that Miss Hewitt and those who surround her will continue to be law-abiding, as I have reason to be concerned for my safety. I was arrested in November 2002 and released from jail in November 2003. San Diego probation did not allow me to leave the county for 5 years, and I was not able to access the internet. I spent those 5 years being tortured by Michael Aquino, his family and cult members, with computer technology,
and consequently was too overcome to monitor anything outside anymore, and I believed if there ever had been aliens, they were gone.
In approximately October of 2008, our internet feed changed, and it was clear that some party had accessed my home computer and television set. At that time, the security of my WordPress webpage was breached, and pictures began appearing on my web browser that depicted my previous assault. Specifically, assault of an extraordinary bad kind which appeared to be alien in nature, such as long, non-human tongues touching my tongue. And it appeared that my worst fears were realized. The aliens or some powerful organization had returned or came in a new way. And then they accessed me. I was told that my lawsuit was too volatile and I was getting too near the truth, and they had been waiting for me. I have come to call these parties or death forms the totalitarian regime or the monolith. I was told by one alien faction that I was their Jesus Christ sacrifice for the millennium takeover. I asked them why that was and discovered that their metaphysical argument was very weak. At that time, I took the opportunity to educate them about the logic that true spiritually is based on, which can be found in truisms, and the cognitive errors they were operating under, which resulted in a belief in Satanism or evil. Because some of these parties claimed to be highly intelligent, logically based, and in computer systems, they were stymied, and then they were silenced. They said they had never planned on being confronted, and that is when my real torture began. Others said to the contrary. They did not know why I was here, and were in opposition to how I had been victimized. Others have stated that I was hurt so badly, which will eventually result in profound medical documentation, because of the personal petty motives of some of their females. In addition, I met one alien, the head of the group I call the Mind in the Mind, because he oversees the computer programs in the population, and reportedly signaled everyone in 8 years ago, who told me recently he was Satan in alien form. After I was released from probation last year, I was able to leave the county, and I began exploring the environment. I discovered that the sky at that time was a deep, unnatural pitch black, and there were no star systems to be seen. At that time, I was told that the planet was teleported into a black hole. If that is the case, the singularitarians were either prophets or active participants in a prearranged Antichrist agenda, and that agenda was always apparent in their usage of the term, the singularity. What is their next step? Several stars began appearing above my home that attempted to replicate a star system, but when I viewed the sky before dusk, I saw some of them arrive. So apparently they are not stars, but some type of craft or satellite. At other times, hundreds of stars appeared in the sky, but then disappeared several weeks later. A few months ago, the sky was abnormally lightened. It is clear that someone has complete control of manifestations in the horizon, and that few are able to see what is actually occurring. Due to this, I am under the impression that the majority of the population is under some type of mind control and are led to see whatever they want you to see. Again, last year, before I was accessed, I discovered a teleportation study on the open internet. I was so disturbed by this, I sent that study to the Joint Chiefs of Staff and Army officials because I thought that if it was true, teleportation was an actuality, then that information should have been classified. I've watched the sun rise at dawn multiple times. A corona arises in the sky and then a gaseous mass surrounds it. For several reasons which I cannot make public, I do not believe this is our original sun or original moon. And I'm wondering if our planet is even orbiting anymore, but instead a sun is being sent around the planet low in the atmosphere. I am not an expert in tides and other phenomena that might offer objective evidence, but I do know that the aliens are amazingly clever. I was told in 2001 that the aliens needed 2 suns so it is entirely possible they teleported our sun into another dimension and left us with an orb that appears to be the sun. I am deadly serious about this. What I am writing about can be easily proven or disproven by sending a satellite to monitor my home and my person and to watch the course of this past celestial object. Shortly after I began discovering this information, there were several people who appeared to be officials from the United States who were also witnessing what I was discovering. An unknown party then accessed the lens, pupil in my eyes, which is on a computer program, and unfortunately created a situation in which those who wanted to see through me were restricted. I also began looking at other people in San Diego in 2008 and discovered that something was very wrong with the shape of their pupils. Some people have abnormally small pupils and some have abnormally large pupils. At that time in San Diego County on October 2008, gas prices plummeted. The price of gas was $4.50, but overnight it dropped to $1.75 a gallon. Within the 48 hours in which this occurred, the time changed. The sun did not rise at its usual time, but rose about 6 hours later. The days and nights are now longer than they used to be. There also appeared to be some type of economic collapse in the United States, for which there has been no adequate explanation. During June 2008 to October 2008, I was active on a political activism forum dedicated to exposing non-lethal technology worldwide. At that time, I was also attempting to correct misinformation/disinformation at the Wikipedia website about the reality of satanic ritual abuse. I can speak with some authority about the subject, as I investigated ritual abuse cases while employed at Child Protective Services and later gathered 90 court decisions proving that ritual abuse occurs worldwide. I've updated the introduction and conclusion to reflect updated information about my perpetrators, http://members.cox.net/dnap/srarchive.pdf. When I became aware that our internet feed had changed, I discovered that several web pages appeared to be computer-generated. Regarding the political activism forum I was on, Julianne McKinney, a longtime member, was known to have an exceptionally sophisticated vocabulary. She was also one of my more vociferous opponents. She was rude and cantankerous. On this forum, in a message dated October 16, 2008, Julianne McKinney wrote a message and addressed me as Miss Napolis. This identity was not Julianne McKinney. The vocabulary used was clearly not her own, and McKinney would never have addressed me so politely because we were opponents. It was clear to me at that time, and for other reasons, that identity theft had occurred on the Mind Control Activism Forum. On December 16, 2008, I revisited this forum and asked, under my pseudonym danhar49@yahoo.com, about identity theft again after I read yet another message, reportedly by Paul Gohl. This message was not written by Mr. Gohl. He was an individual proficient in physics, and yet again the vocabulary used was not his. The responses that I received in response to my question about the legitimacy of the message will be posted in the next few days. In the meantime, I accessed another forum with some of the same individuals and asked a question about whether they had noticed anything unusual that had occurred within the last 90 days. Monica Stoses from Europe replied and gave me information which I had noticed but had not included within my message. This is the first person in the world that I have been able to communicate with who has noticed the same phenomena that I have. Her message is below, along with misspellings, which includes my original message to this forum. This is Monica Stoses' message in reply to my own, harassment victims, re-identity theft, age. Diana, I cannot reach your site. Here I have the same problem, that messages seem sometimes real, sometimes fake, or mails don't arrive, or websites are simply computer-generated. It is cause extreme confusion and makes it impossible to know what info or mail is real. This way, of course, nobody anymore knows what really is happening. Were I having this kind of problems for about as long, and it is impossible to find out the real or fake thing from one entiter, included my bank account. I tried to reach some victims, but some did not give their phone, or others simply I cannot get connected with. So realize I cannot do nothing that makes sense anymore, because I discovered in October 2008 that something satanic Luciferian was done to the planet with a deep and dark metaphysical intent. I have been closely listening to these aliens and human perpetrators. As I have been interacting with those inside the computer screen, I have discovered the following. 1. It appears that they are using humans as an energy source. At least one faction can appear to be human-like, but can quickly change into malicious insects upon provocation, whereupon they engage in vampire-like energy stealing of the humans' beings locked into this program in order to energize themselves, and afterwards it appears that they are killed. In October 2008, during what I refer to as a transition time, an energetic change appeared on the faces of many people I saw. It actually appeared that the life force had been drained from them. I asked what had been done to these people, and they stated that an antimatter bomb had been set off in my area, which caused this effect. But given that one important faction are energy-draining insects, I have watched them at work within this program. The possibility that they accessed the public cannot be ruled out. Given that one faction of aliens appear to be insects, it also perhaps enhances the singularitarians' interpretation of a hive mind in their description of a global brain. These insect forms tell me their females are part of a hive mind. They all communicate, and they are deadly. Who was or still is in charge of this mega-computer, or is there more than one mega-computer? The aliens I interact with say they are in charge. Given the infighting amongst themselves and their ongoing skirmishes with me, I would strongly suggest that any terrestrial computers associated with a global brain be tuned off in order to take advantage of this chaotic circumstance. 8 years ago, I was involved in a plan for everyone to turn off their computers in a show of resistance because many were terrified of these aliens. Now I believe such an act would be more than a show, but in actuality could succeed in destabilizing the enemy. One can also access some computers via one's intention in order to put them out. I do it on a regular basis. In addition, the singularitarians write about nanonbots and gray goo. The aliens are experts in nanotechnology. There are one faction who appear to be androids of some kind, and as previously stated, insects. These insects regurgitate a substance from their throat or stomach which is poisonous in nature and serves to disintegrate their victims. Documentation of this fact should be forthcoming. The reader might be interested in the Wikipedia definition of gray goo and be warned about the possible significance of this information. http://n.wikipedia.org/wiki/gray_goo2. Some of their behavior has been paired with human-like sex. All factions recently acquired pseudo-sex organs and have been engaged in malicious sexual conduct both with children and adults that they have introduced into the computer system or mind-uploading program, who they afterwards murder. For the past 60 days, these insects, with human intelligence and evil entities from their dimension, have been escaping this program and entering the world in some form or fashion, which I tried to stop, but to no avail. My impression is that the aliens have been playing de-evolving games with humans in an attempt to mock free will and then place humans into animal forms, while they attempt to escape with a pseudo-human body with sex organs. 3. They are engaging in a sophisticated identity theft scheme. They are choosing and hand-picking humans who have certain personality characteristics that they can use. They then program the human victim's will and intent so that they can use the person's intelligence but control the person in a puppet marionette type fashion in order to advance their perverse agenda. I assume this is not only inside but outside of this program. This has exposed me to several computer-generated abominations, as well as one or two who are abominations due to their own making. I was recently told that human computer operators from MIT who specialize in artificial intelligence are also involved in this activity. As previously stated, artificial intelligence programs might actually be mind-controlled, uploaded, and imprisoned human beings. 4. It is also important to know that at times my perpetrators will show what appear to be movies of popular personalities in the computer that I look into, and others can interact with those personalities in some unknown fashion, even though they appear to be on film. At the present time, I don't know if this technology represents a capability of some type of advanced artificial intelligence or not. It's important to note that on mainstream television, it is also possible to create film, TV images that appear to be a particular personality, when in fact that personality is animated by some technology also yet unknown. They can create artificial life via this process. For instance, during the vice presidential election, in my opinion, Sarah Palin had an unexplainable and significant rise in IQ. After several poor interviews in which she appeared unqualified for the vice presidency, which made me wonder how she was going to manage in an upcoming debate with Joe Biden. She performed remarkably in this debate, but it did appear that she was animated in some form or fashion in a peculiar way. I believe it is possible that this personality was really not her, but simply appeared to be her, and the election was staged. It appears that the agenda of the New World Order is to place the human population on mind control and to place the population into some type of mind-uploading virtual reality computer system. They can teleport and may or may not be proficient in opening and closing interdimensions. I have been told that their hell realms opened up and came in with them unexpectedly, and that there is a force that has overcome them that they themselves want to eject. They do not appear to be prepared for physical confrontation. However, it can be done because I do it all of the time. I have been told that there are 4 groups of aliens who have 4 separate signals or sounds. At one time, I heard all 4. At this time, I suspect that there is a fight amongst various factions, and the insects may be behind it all. There may or may not be any reason to cooperate. You've read the worst to date. Please consider this information and decide. Remember, you cannot always believe what is on your computer screen, and you also may be under mind control. Think of ways to get around this in order to reality check. They can immediately access medical screens in hospitals, and I am sure change what is seen on government/military computer screens in which facilities are monitored from a distance. Identity theft is occurring on a grand scale. One has to be very sure that the party one is speaking with is the actual identity. I invoke the love for God. They cannot destroy a principle or destroy what is already in the human heart-mind. I'm a living example of that reality as I recovered, despite what was done to me. I sing this song to them every morning, more music. One can hear another signal within it. Sphere 2, to the best of my knowledge, it is an alien signal. My perpetrators have been trying to ruin this song since I uploaded it 2 days ago, and you might hear their voices within it. This is evidence that I am being accessed as I have an electronic keyboard. Good luck, Diana.